Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's want to show you heard it from the Three Bells.
What-o, Harry?
And what-o, Edna. And welcome to Harry and Edna on the wireless. Who's going to speak?
Go on,
we had a nice
for
pause
you.
there.
Yeah.
Well, that's all riding on a rainbow. Could be riding, what do you reckon, like horse riding?
It could be horse riding. It could be... Well, if you're riding a rainbow, you're not really horse riding, are you? You are riding a rainbow.
Maybe on a unicorn.
Maybe.
Mind you, you've got to be careful, because unicorns are very, very young animals.
Well, they're very rare species, aren't they?
They are. And the reason we're talking about horse riding is because today we're going to talk to, and we were having a debate because we couldn't remember the lady's name. Is it Kate Vigas or Vigas, did you say?
I said Vigas. You say Vigas.
We're going to find out, because we have the interview. The lovely Edna did the interview with Kate, and it's... we'll listen to it ourselves, because we recorded it out when we were on tour, in a stately home, where she was actually riding, because they're doing Victorian riding, Gymkhana style, and that's side saddle, if I remember, and all other
Yes,
things.
and I just think ladies are very brave when they jump over things side saddle.
Yeah.
Looks unsafe.
It is.
I'm sure it's not.
I think horse riding is probably one of the most dangerous things ever in the world.
I don't think so. I think you're just risk-averse, Harry.
Do you know? Yeah. I remember there was this young lady I tried to impress once, and she rode, so I thought I'd learn to ride to keep her. And you know, I broke bones, and I've been in pain, and I've been in agony.
Bones. You didn't break bones.
I got thrown off, and I hit the wall on the way down,
you
and
had
did my arm.
Bruising.
Other time, horse reared up, I fell off the back, and then horse landed on top of me. Remember, landed on my
But
leg.
you still didn't break any bones.
It hurt.
Yeah, but you still didn't break any bones.
Do you know about breaking bones? Oh, yes, you do.
They're about breaking bones on horses, but that's a whole other story.
Another story which we will talk about after we've listened to the Cotton Club Orchestra, because what they're doing.
They're singing about horse feathers.
See, now horses had feathers. They might be smoother and not so hard when they land on you.
Horses do have feathers.
I suppose they do, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. What are you going to tell? You're going to tell them to look at Wikipedia to find out it's a part of a horse,
well, I
isn't
thought
it?
we could listen to the song, and maybe the song tells us, and if not, we will enlighten the listener.
What ho?
There you go. It's the Cotton Club Orchestra and horse feathers.
Yeah.
And now, if you listen, you'll hear a bit when they go... That is the sound the horse makes when you touch its feathers.
Right, so a horse's feathers are the bits of hair that hang down off of their leg, and it's the bottom of their leg where it sort of bends around before it joins the hoof.
Yeah,
so
and if you touch it, the horse goes...
No, it's a good way of picking up a horse's hoof. You sort of pull the feathers, and it lifts its hoof.
You mean person.
It's not pulling it in a nasty sense. They sort of know, as you tickle down their tendons, that it's time to pick their hoof up.
You see, I shall enlighten you a little bit, listener. When we were talking about horse riding and the lady, it was actually young Edna. When we first met, she was into horses, you see, and I learned to ride a horse. The trouble is I kept falling off, and it hurt and was very painful. However, not as many times as Edna has, but we'll talk about that later. She's fallen off a lot more and done a lot more damage than I ever did, because I was more sensible and realised it was time to stop.
You plodded along, whereas I was a bit more all out, daredevilly.
Yeah. But you were saying about touching the feathers. Now, the day job for me, I have an interesting day job. I look after donkeys, which are basically little horses with big ears. And you have to do the same sort of thing, although I don't know if they have feathers.
They're very different from horses, which I didn't really realise
they
until I
are
started
smaller.
learning about donkeys. No, they are very different, as in they eat different things.
No, I think if you know a donkey, you can do anything. And you went the other day to a former royal palace, I guess.
Yes.
And you went on a little tour. And they took you to see elephants. And I said, let's have elephants. Let's introduce elephants.
No, they didn't
because
see me
I could look after elephants, because elephants are like donkeys. They're just a lot bigger than they don't have any hair on.
No, I wasn't taken to see elephants. I was taken to see
evidence of
evidence of a pit where they used to bathe said elephants, because an elephant was gifted to Queen Victoria from one of her empire countries, and came over to England, and then they had to sort of look after this elephant. So it was a magnificent present, but then you kind of think, Excellent.
I know what I've got to do. I have
What
to
do I
build
do
a
with
bath.
an elephant? Yeah,
Let's build a bath.
Yes, they built a bath to bathe said elephant, which was a fascinating bit of history because you wouldn't know it to look at it.
What, it's a bath?
Yeah.
No.
For
Anyway,
elephants.
I was thinking, because I work at a tourist attraction looking after donkeys, at this tourist attraction, they could have elephants, and I could look after said elephant.
But they wouldn't have an elephant bath. Not like at the other tourist attraction I was at.
I don't know, you lost me, sorry.
No,
I've gone straight over there.
because
there's
where
a big
you
centre
are,
parting in my hair.
where there's donkeys,
yeah.
there is nowhere to bathe said elephant. Whereas at the other tourist attraction I was at, the former Royal Palace,
well, they could have.
there is a
Yeah,
an
they
elephant
get
bath.
the elephants there because it's a bigger place.
But you made it sound like you were having the
no,
elephants.
and I go and work there.
Oh, I see.
I say I know to look after a
That's-
donkey.
See, that was like your jokes where you tell the middle bit and beginning and then the end, and you've all lost everyone in a muddle.
Because they say, can you look after elephants? And I go, yes. Because they're just like donkeys, they're just bigger,
think they
and they
are
don't
like
have hair.
donkeys.
And I do spend most of my life shoveling donkey poo.
Yeah, but you won't pick
And
out an elephant's foot, would you?
An elephant, so they do bigger poo.
Yeah, but you don't. How
Yeah, I
do you
know
look
that.
at- How
See,
do you
I know
brush
that.
an elephant then? You don't, do you?
No, you don't
Has
need
it
to.
got
It's got no hair.
Exactly. So it's not like looking after a donkey.
You just got to put a bit of
What?
a bit,
What?
a bit of
what on it?
moisturiser.
You
a
sure?
bit of moisturiser.
What, on an elephant?
Yeah,
You
know.
sure?
Yeah, Superdrug will be well chuffed when I go down there and slap it on and go, there you go,
I
fella.
thought he likes dust and dirt and.
Well, not my ones. I'm keeping them clean. I'm putting them in the bath.
What, you're moisturised? I don't think you do that to elephants.
And they've got nails.
Yeah, but not in the sense of like
Yeah,
our
so
nails.
I could. Is it
What do you
pedicure when you
do?
do?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll get a rasp file. I have a rasp file in my shed. I could use that and pedicure there.
But how do you know? What are their nails made of then?
Nails. Well, what everybody is.
No,
It's
'cause
compressed
donkeys
skin,
are
isn't it?
hoof. Donkeys are hoof. And it's not quite like our nails, is
I
it?
can look after unicorns.
I think you're getting all in a tizzy now in a muddle.
You see, what Edna doesn't know is that a baby donkey is in fact a unicorn, and after about 18 months, when they grow up, their horn falls off, and then become donkeys.
And this is what Harry relayed at a certain historic public site, and people
Several
believed
times,
him
and they
because,
do.
hey, it's true because
Because I said it.
you work for a leading historic attraction. Dear, oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway, that was good. So we're talking about horse feathers, and you were
Of
explaining
which the
it.
Cotton Club sung nothing about.
Yes, he did. He went blue, 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 and
Yeah,
as I
but
said,
what relation is that to the horse feathers, the song?
this is what the horse does
Yeah, but
when
why
you
did
touch
he
it.
call it horse feathers? It had absolutely nothing to do with horse feathers.
I don't know. It's a bit like these songs, because obviously that's got a real 20s vibe going. They're a bit like the songs of today. They can actually bear no resemblance whatsoever about the title. I believe my children now call it on the internet and things, they call it clickbait.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing in the 1920s. Obviously, they didn't have the internet, so they said, I know, when we produce this wonderful piece of shellac, we can do the equivalent of 1920s clickbait and put something on, and people go, oh, look, horse feathers. I wonder if they know. So equine people go, oh, I know what a horse feather is, and the non-equine people will go, well, that's just daft, because horses don't have feathers unless it's Pegasus. Maybe Pegasus had feathers, but
I
that's
think
another
you're
story.
going off on a complete
And that's what it's got to
trail of
do.
fantasy now.
I'll explain it to you after Lionel Hamilton,
Okay.
shall I? And who's it going to be? Oh, sorry, or what's track? What's he doing?
He's whizzing the whiz.
What ho?
There you go, Lionel Hampton, whizzing the whiz. Lionel, of course, renowned in the 1950s for his keeping of elephants. He was a huge elephant fan.
Was this one of your Wikipedia facts?
No, but it could be if I go on Wikipedia and change
Okay.
it and change his
Well,
entry.
Yes.
Then he could be the world. He was around.
The world elephant keeper.
Yeah, he mixed African and Indian elephants together.
Really?
It was all about cultural diversity and everything.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, but it was considering the period that we're talking about. It was really good.
I'm fully
and
embracing.
the joy of elephants, and I think we should have more elephants in our world. And if we did, the world would be a far better place.
Absolutely, hurrah!
Unlike Harry and Edna HQ, you may have noticed there's a background hum going on. We've been trying to muffle it as best we can, but things have not all been well in Harry and Edna world. And we had a freak of nature, and we're missing part of Harry and Edna HQ now.
Well, it's not a freak of nature. It was a storm, but a rather impressive storm, wouldn't you say? A big old storm.
Yeah, so
100 mile an hour.
So
winds plus.
we've got a few A few
loose
tiles
bits.
missing off the roof, and we've and pretty much anything to do with a fence around the property's gone.
Well,
It's now floating down the Solent.
the brand new fence is fine. The wobbly
Apart
old
from the
bit
big
that
crack
we
in it.
tried to salvage is just, you know, when things are on your list, but they're quite low down on your list, and they suddenly just whiz up to the top of the list.
But this goes back to why that affects the noise. It's because it is a bit more aerated in here,
Yes.
and thus it's a little bit more chilly.
So we need a little boost of heating to keep us from our teeth chattering whilst we're trying to talk.
Now, of course, Harry Edna on the wireless is broadcast all over the place. And sometimes, and we record it live. We try to do it in one take, but we're not live coming to you through the airwaves. So if this show is going out in the middle of summer, you'll think, I suppose you do get tropical storms.
We do.
Yes, and we are on our little island, and maybe people
Yes.
think we are in the Caribbean.
And we are the side of the island that gets the wind first, which we didn't realise. We're not the tropical side of the island. We're the fresher side of the island with the more interesting weather, I think.
Yeah, because if you walk out our front door and you turn left and keep walking, and then you have to do a bit of swimming,
Yeah.
you hit America.
Yes.
There's nothing between us and the States.
No, but we don't get the basking lizards, do we, that they get on the other side of the island? We've seen a few. We have seen them. They do exist.
And you can see France upside down, but that's a whole other
That's
story,
a whole
which we
other
won't go
story,
there
which
today.
Mark Steele went into, the beloved comedian.
He's a comedian here in the UK who did a whole act based on part of the Isle of Wight. There you go. And we were there watching him and said,
And it was
Mark.
very funny.
He was good. Now, what's this got to do with Gymkhanas?
We've got off on a tangent.
We
haven't
have gone on a
It was you and your
tangent.
elephants.
We have done.
You went from horses to donkeys to elephants.
We did.
Yes. No, you did.
We did. So, have you ever been tempted for Gymkhana? You've probably done
I used
Gymkhana.
to do gymkhanas when I was a ickle girl growing up and riding horses. I got some rosettes from my Gymkhana days. Didn't you know?
And do you still have said... Or,
Rosettes. I think they're in my memories box. We have memories boxes in our lofts. So Harry has one, I have one, and our children have one from their little birthing tags all the way up through school and beyond, I'm sure.
And in yours are rosettes?
And my little rosettes.
So did you?
From my
So
horse
did you
riding
like
days.
represent the county or anything?
No, it was just... I did go to a county show and I got some rosettes, but mostly at the little riding school they used to do shows. And I used to do gymkhanas, and there was a game called Cowboys and Indians, where you rode down to one end of the school and you had to take your saddle off, and then you rode back bareback, kind of whatever Indians do. They make a funny noise. What do you call that? Not hollering, it's whatever the noise is.
And then we were going to speak to Kate Vigas, who's Victorian Gymkhana. You never did anything? Did you do Victorian style? Because you're talking
No.
side saddle, and this is where normally if you see somebody riding a horse, they ride astride it, one leg either side.
Yes, yeah.
But because in Victorian period they didn't wear trousers,
we did traditional Gymkhana games.
Just explain what it would be for a Victorian Gymkhana. So you've got the traditional games where you're slicing, I don't know, the tops off turnips or something. But the ladies at that period couldn't
all
ride
side saddle, yeah.
all side saddle because they were wearing a dress.
Yes,
Is that right? And that's why they couldn't.
Yeah, with all their skirts.
So it's a funny shaped saddle, I take it, is it? And do you just hook your leg
you
round
sort
it?
of sit. So you sit with your bottom on the seat in a saddle as normal, but both legs go on one side, and you have sort of a hook that you rest your leg over, and then the other one tucks underneath it.
Have you ever
and
done
you
it?
have a stirrup. No, it always looks like you're going to fall off. It just doesn't look comfortable.
Now, I've been watching one of these historical things. Working with, say, it's Downton Abbey, and they did a hunting thing in the Elf. And she was and the lass was supposed. I don't think
sure
the actress was doing
balanced,
it. Was jumping over fences. So.
Yeah, I'm sure you were, perfectly balanced, but it just doesn't look comfortable. And she did it in a top hat, didn't she? So way before the days of riding hats and back protectors.
Yeah, I mean,
but even them don't stop you breaking your elbow.
To be fair, I doubt it was the star of said show that was jumping it. I suspect they got somebody else doing it.
No, I'm just saying they didn't have the safety precautions we have now, and even though you have safety precautions, you still can break your bones.
You can do. Now, we're going to go and play some Squadronaires and The Little and the Lonely Side. The next time you shall hear us, it'll actually be young Edna talking to... We're going to find out her name. Was it Kate Vigas or Kate Vegas?
Vigas.
Vigas. and finding out all about the Victorian Gymkhana, because this was recorded at West Park, was it? Mm. Which is a stately home. Well, it's not stately. Is it stately home?
It was a stately home.
Stately home in
Bedfordshire,
sort of in between Luton and Bedford. And taking us up there will be the Squadronaires, and a little on the lonely side.
What ho!
Yeah, I ride in the Victorian Gymkhana. This is 5 ladies who are riding side saddle, and then we have 4 splendid gentlemen dressed in various military uniforms from the 19th century. So we're here to demonstrate how the Victorian Gymkhana grew up, the kind of events you'd find within it, and really to show that the ladies can do it just as well as the men, even if they're sitting sideways in a corset.
Which must just be incredibly difficult. As a horse rider myself, I just shudder at the thought of then sitting on one side of the horse. How do you train for that?
It's not as difficult as you would first think. The horse has to be trained obviously first because the saddle's different, so maybe do a little bit of work in hand with the horse first. The saddles are longer than in a stride saddle, and there's a different strap on it, so get the horse used to it first. But really your weight distribution is the same as it is if you're riding normally. You just need to get used to the fact that your leg's hooked over, and you need to put a twist up through your spine so you're still sitting nice and elegant and straight. So it's unusual for a 21st century lady to be doing it, but in the 19th century they wouldn't have known any difference. So it would have been, the way they were brought up.
But would it have been something that certainly the richer classes would have done?
Yes, I mean, the side saddle, what we're kind of demonstrating is the way that women can keep up with the men, and the way that we've demonstrated the most is on the hunting field. So you are looking at sort of what we would now call the upper class ladies that have their horses brought to them by their grooms, that have at least 2 men to help them get on, organise their dresses. You certainly wouldn't all be doing it all yourself. So you are looking at quite a wealthy pastime.
And is it something? Where would people have seen a Victorian Gymkhana? Would it just be a sort of in-house thing, or
it would have sprung up at sort of village fairs and things like that. India, of course, the British have a huge presence in India in the 19th century, and that's really where the Gymkhana comes from. And it's to show that you can practice with your weapons, but in a fun way. So some of the things we have with us, lances, various military equipment, is to show that it can be used and to sort of show dexterity, and also that women could do it as well. They could have a go. One of the things we do is something called tent pegging, where they have great long lances and they try and pick up a very small target from the ground while travelling at great speed. So yeah, they'd have been all over the place.
It's also to show that women were just as competent at riding and the skills as any man was, because I'm assuming in Victorian times women were very much not seen as being on the same level as men. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, I think there's a misconception that they're very downtrodden. I don't think it's quite as bad as we think it is. But the purpose of the side saddle display is to show that women were able to keep up with the gentlemen in the hunting field. They were able to jump. They could pretty much do everything. And it's where we start to see women coming up onto a level pegging with the men. And obviously as the 20th century progresses and we move towards the Great War, you see women starting to take on all sorts of roles that have previously only been thought of as male roles.
What ho!
So how did you get into doing this? I mean, I'm assuming you were sort of a horse rider pre the Gymkhana. So,
yes.
Why did you then go on to recreate this period of history?
I wanted to do something different with horses. I've ridden since a very young age. I'd done the skillet arms, where you've got lances and swords and all that kind of medieval thing. And I wanted something that was a little bit more feminine, and maybe that not so many people did as well. So I took the opportunity when I was given the opportunity to learn to ride side saddle, and I do it in modern dress as well, do dressage and things like that, but to do it in the Victorian setting somewhere like an English heritage site is a very special thing.
So when you go and perform over on the Isle of Wight, do you take the horses with you?
Yep, everything goes on the ferry.
So they are your horses and all your equipment, you don't hire them in?
Well, I don't have my own horse. My horse is hired from one of the other riders and a horse supplier, Dominic Saw, so I ride his horse. So he will bring the horses over. The side saddle is my own, very precious, very difficult to get hold of these days, so I'll never let it out of my sight again, probably.
So is it a historical saddle, or is it one that's been recreated?
No, mine's an original, so mine's at least 100 years old, so it needs lots of love with leather dressing and soap and to be looked after.
Brilliant. And so do you have a website? If people want to find out a little bit more, if they want to research a bit further into this?
If you go onto the English Heritage website, and you can, I think, click on events, and there are all the events on there about the Victorian Gymkhana. There's lots of reading material out there if people are interested in learning about women riding side saddle. Most of it's contemporary material. Ladies on Horseback, printed in 1881, has been a great source of inspiration for me. So there is stuff out there.
Brilliant. So we look forward to seeing you next at Audley End.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
What ho?
That's the Horse Guards in Whitehall going down your way. Now, I was thinking that Horse Guards are the guys who clippity-clop on their horses, you see, it's all carefully thwarted. And they do it down like Pall Mall, don't they? And they do it next to the Queen and all that sort of stuff. And one of our chums is one of those people. And he gets to clippity-clop too.
I think they do a little bit more than clippity-clop, and I hope people won't take offence that you just think that's all they do.
No, he has to do a lot of polishing. Have you seen? Because they wear like armour, don't they?
But he does a lot of
and
hours in the saddle, doesn't he, to make sure everything is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and sometimes he has to go off proper soldiering as well, so it's not just doing that.
When you see them sort of doing royal occasions, they are absolutely perfect, aren't they? Well, the horses aren't always well behaved, but that's a bit beyond their control, I suspect.
It's fun to do that, wouldn't it, to be on one of them big horses?
They are big as well, aren't they?
They are. When they don't move, they seem totally bomb-proof.
Absolutely solid.
Not like the weird and wild things that you used to
own.
Make me ride.
Well, then you've banned me from them, haven't you? You've banned me from ever riding ever again.
Well, we can go into all of that story, but it's really not, this is personal stuff, and we don't go into that because
we don't go into personal stuff.
Not on the radio. But there is. Let me put it this way: I wasn't alone. If I remember, as you were going into theatre for like the umpteenth time,
yes,
and each time you had the same surgeon. Didn't he not give you some sort of a lecture that it was now time to give up?
No, I was racked with pain, and he was giving me a lecture before he was about to put me under.
There's only so much more metal he could put inside you.
Well, it wasn't that. It was like, third time lucky, fourth time perhaps not. It's like, I'm okay. All right, what are you trying to say? He said, I don't want to see you ever again. In the nicest possible way on my operating table.
With another horse riding accident.
Yes.
And it wasn't as if it's the same horse. You did it on multiple horses.
Well,
you could fall off lots of the horses.
It was quite funny, really. But the ironic thing was I had my helmet on, my back protector, my lumbar support, and I fell on my arm. I broke my elbow. And I said to him, look, I couldn't have been any more protected. I was like Michelin Man on that horse. But I didn't realise I'd fall on my elbow.
Yeah. And to this day, I still don't fully know what you did. Because I go quite crazy. Yeah. I do remember that you've been head to toe in plaster. Wasn't it right from your wrist right the way up?
It was from my shoulder right down to my wrist, yeah.
And you were completely strapped up?
Yeah.
And it was not a fun time?
No. No, it wasn't. You had to put a bit of wood across the bath so I could get a bath without getting my plaster wet because I was desperate for a bath. Oh, happy days.
And that bit of wood was actually a museum interpretation board, because it's all I could find.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, I've got
It's a sort of thing we have lying around in our house,
yeah.
As we do. Now, at this point, I'm supposed to say this is Harry Edna on the wireless. And you can enjoy us on the beautiful radio, of course. But you can also get us via the internet, where we go worldwide. And it's harryandedna.co.uk. And you can either listen to the full version, which has all the beautiful music in and everything. Or you can go to download the podcast, which I'm getting better at uploading. I'm not very good at uploading them. However, it's just purely the speech part. You're not helping me, dear. It's purely the speech element of the show.
This is your bit. Why should I help you?
It's just the speech element of the show, because the music's cut out, isn't it, for copyrighty reasons. And I'm getting better. I'm uploading them more, so you can get that and you can download that and you can play that. I don't think people have iPods anymore, do they? I said that to the children. They looked at me blankly and said, "What is one of those things?"
That's all retro now, don't it?
Yeah,
that's like really old stuff.
That's like with the Wii. The computer game, the Wii games, and they'll go, that's so retro.
Yeah, but then they say that, and then when you put it on, they all join you.
Yeah, because it's old school to them, isn't it?
Gatecrash your Keep Fit session.
Anyway, what was I saying? It was Harry and Edna. Yeah, just go to harryandedna.co.uk. Honestly, you'll find everything there. We're wonderful. We want to hear from you. And we do all the usual social media. So, Instagram, Facebook, and I even tweet occasionally now. So you can catch me on Twitter. There we go. It's good enough for the world politicians. It's good enough for me.
What ho?
classic 78. We do love our 78 shellacs. In fact, our son dug that one up. He was bored, and we said, "What can you do?" And he said, "Well, we've got this big pile of records. Have a listen through."
Well, we needed to sort them and categorise them, didn't we? Into
Into
swing,
keep or
jazz, keep, classical,
get rid of, ditch. And anyway, that's one. That's the American Quartet and Your Beautiful Doll, which I gather was released in the, what do you call it, the 19-teens? I think it's like 1918, 1919. It wasn't the 1920s, what I'm saying, was it?
Years.
It was it was either wartime or just immediately post-war.
Okay.
And it's just amazing when you find those wonderful tracks. In fact, he was... What was some classical piece he kept humming, wasn't he, on his one?
Because we tried to get them to listen to a bit of classical music to help them go to sleep. And, I mean, even though they are teenagers, but it helps them relax. And there's one that he recognised, and he keeps playing it over and over.
Yeah.
Is it the Danube? Blue Danube? Something
is
like that?
Is it like that?
Mm.
I wasn't sure. I knew the tune, just couldn't place it, you know, which is just
but
me,
it's
really.
Hearing it on the old gramophone, isn't it?
It is.
Well, until it slows down, that is.
Now, there's been a handful of Horsey records being played. There wasn't that many in our collection. We have several hundred records and tracks and 78s, and of course we've got our son trying to categorise some more. But we have one more to go, but first I'm going to play a bit of Fred Astaire. And then there is one more horse-related song.
You did very well trying to find horse-related songs. That's not an easy challenge, was it?
Riding on a Rainbow, you think I was pushing it a bit, didn't you, at the beginning?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and Lionel Hampton's Love of Elephants, that just went right off in tangent as far as you were concerned.
Lionel Hampton's Love of Elephants?
Yes, we played a track by Lionel Hamilton called Whiz in the Whiz.
Yeah.
And I was explaining how he was
you went off on a tangent
a keeper of elephants.
He wasn't, though.
He might have been. He will be once I get to Wikipedia and change the entry. He would be. Anyway, here's Fred Astaire, who wasn't known for his love of elephants, but he did have an incredibly big beetle collection.
What ho?
Fred Astaire, who's cheek to cheek. And when I said he was a great lover of Beatles, I don't mean Paul, Ringo and the Avalons.
Well, I said Izzy, and you said no, he's
not.
not.
The eight-legged things that just tickle along.
But he's not, though, is he?
I just made it up.
Making it up again.
I just made it up. And you believe me. You believe the fact that baby donkeys are called unicorns next.
When we came off air, I said, did he? No. You sounded so convincing.
I don't know if Lionel Hampton even likes elephants. I made that up too.
Well, don't make things up.
Fake
you're
news.
Confusing our listeners.
Fake news. That's what it is.
Because we're meant to be historically accurate, and you keep making stuff up, which just is confusing people.
So I shall consider myself told off.
Yes.
Gymkhanas.
Yes.
Victorian.
Yeah.
Wonderful time. I talked about your horse riding, and we also were thinking. I remember. Well, I think you had to do it. Did it clear up after an event where they had jousting, which was jolly exciting.
Yeah.
And being the sort of wombles we are, all the old jousts, because they break the lances, they break them. And they all like to go in the skip, and we thought that's a terrible waste. And we've been burning them over the winter, keeping ourselves warm.
We have, actually, because they're solid up to a point, because you need the weight in them, because if it's slightly windy, the wind obviously catches the lance, and the knight can't hold it properly, so it's solid to a sort of 3/4, and then the last quarter is balsa wood. So when they hit, it makes a big splintery wow, look at that impact. But then Harry and I, as he said, after the jousts, because they did clear the ground, because obviously it's dangerous to leave broken lances all over the place, and they sort of piled them up, and we said, pile them up, please, because we'll take them home and burn them. So we were telling the knights to pile all their broken lances up, because we wanted to burn them.
And then 6 months later, when it was the winter, we burnt them and kept ourselves warm.
Very well, didn't they?
Yeah, that was it. It's called... it's not recycling, it's reusing, isn't it? Which is very good.
Just using something up and
very environmental.
It was, and it kept us nice and warm. So thank you, knights, for breaking lots of lances, because then we got lots of firewood. Yeah,
and the electricity company got a few pennies less because of it, which is always a good thing. Now, I did say the excitement. We got the final Horsey record, and this is called Jack the Cat Was Clean. No, that doesn't sound very equine-y.
No.
So what's the equine connection?
Well, it's by, I guess it's a chap called Dr. Horse.
What ho?